Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of the Our Girlfriend podcast with myself, Baba Rahim, and co-host and star Molna Sajid, who's the Imam of Masjid Umar and head of the Paradise Academy and avid volunteer at Our Girlfriend. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Salman Butt, who is part of an organization called Islam 12, which is 12?
21c.
21c, apologies. 21c.com. And we're going to learn all about the organization a bit. And today's podcast is about families and the effect of families. So, Mullah Saab, you want to do a little introduction?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmadu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Jazakallah, Babar. I hope in 2012 or Islam 21c, not unless you're going back 21. In time. Or are you back to the future? Is it with the? I think you're being affected with your background.
One of them years, Mullah Saab. You can one of them years, or you want to delete the year.
Okay.
Maybe you think of the Hijri year.
With the Hijri.
14c. That's closer.
So, alhamdulillah, we've got Dr. Salman Butt with us from Islam21c. Inshallah, we're going to learn a lot about their organization and the work that they do. And I think one of the prime concerns within our community today is especially, we see a lot of relationships that are breaking up between husband and wife. And then sometimes we might just think it's a minor thing, okay, just two people not getting on, but the effects that it has on the whole family, the children, and this effect stays for life. And, the mental scars of that relationship. So the thing is, today we're going to learn about in their shoes, put yourself in the shoes of those children and the effects that a broken house has upon them. So I think, inshallah, Dr. Salman will shed some more light on this campaign and the efforts that they're doing. So I think these are topics that we are trying to tackle in our community. And alhamdulillah, Islam talks about relationships, it talks about bonding. And remember, strong relationships, strong communities, make good communities. But unfortunately nowadays we're seeing a lot of breakup and a lot of effects, especially upon the children. And inshallah, Dr. Salman Sahab, Jazakallah for attending our podcast and accepting our dawat. And if you could like to introduce yourself and your work.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. I didn't know there was a dawah with any food involved, so I look forward to that, inshallah.
We'll email you the dawat.
I look forward to that.
It has to be virtual, right?
Yeah. A picture of some biryani. MashaAllah. Jazakallah khairan for the invite. MashaAllah, Maulana Sajid Saab has, alongside many others, been supporting this campaign. We launched a few weeks ago, and the next major milestone in the campaign is a National Khutbah Day, National Khutbah / Bayan Day. So we're really looking forward to more and more people jumping on and raising awareness about this campaign. So this campaign in particular, it's called In Their Shoes, and it's basically set up to raise awareness about an increasingly toxic practice that's getting more and more common, unfortunately, in the community. The first lockdown back a few months ago, we were alerted by some Islamic mediation services that they're getting a lot more disputes coming in where children are being used as kind of weapons to exact vengeance, unfortunately, by one spouse against the other. And we thought this is a huge kind of ticking time bomb. It needs to be addressed before it gets out of control. And the idea was to highlight the toxicity of this practice, because a lot of the time people just think, because the broader culture, it's seen as normal for kids to be denied access between one parent over the other. But Islamically, Silatul Rahim, the joining of the ties of kinship, is such a central theme for Islam's vision for society. We thought this is something that needs, in our general kind of consciousness, our general discourse as Muslims, we need to have this very, very kind of strong in our hearts and in our communities. The fact that life doesn't always go according to plan, sometimes relationships do break down, but the bond between parents and children is a very special and sacred one. So, many people get divorced. Many people, this is why Islam has legislated the talaq or khulu or different types of dissolving a marriage. But that doesn't mean they stop being parents. So they should still, wherever it's possible, obviously, and some cases might not be possible, obviously, if there's a death or something serious like that involved. But if a child has the potential to interact with both of their sides of the family, both parents, it's extremely important for the child to have that meaningful relationship, with the father, with the mother, both of them. And they don't have to be still married for that to be the case. We know so many people throughout history and Islamic history that and even current examples of brothers and sisters today who their parents are, they were divorced or split up, but they still had a good, healthy relationship with both sides of their family, and that's extremely important. So that's one area of the campaign, to raise awareness of the importance and centrality of this feature in Islam's vision for society of Silatul Rahim, joining the ties of kinship. And the second aim of the campaign was to empower those people who are involved in such kind of disputes to try and resolve or mediate their grievances, their disputes, their issues with reputable kind of well-known Islamic bodies, mediation services like the Islamic Council of Europe, like the Dewsbury Sharia Council, for example, and many other kind of anywhere there's Muslims, alhamdulillah, there are recognized, reputable services to mediate disputes and get, whether it's a fatwa council or this or that. So we want to encourage people to go to these services that have their long-term interests at heart. So if it's affecting you, if you're involved in a dispute or a divorce yourself, or even if maybe you're the child of someone who was divorced parents, we have some tailored messaging for different types of people, or even if you have a friend or a family member who's going through this, likewise we have some messaging for those types of people as well. So so number one, the aim is to raise awareness about the sacredness of the bond between parents and children, and number two, to empower people who are going through these issues like this, or people who know someone going through issues like this, to direct them towards getting the right kind of Islamic-based solutions, whether it's mediation services, whether it's counseling, whether it's therapy, and that type of stuff.
And Dr. Saab, you just mentioned like a lot of parents when between husband and wife, the relationship does break down, and you mentioned that sometimes the parents utilize the children against the other side of the other half. What do you mean? Can you give us some examples in what how people do that?
So unfortunately, when a marriage breaks down, what normally Islamically what is supposed to happen is, the two people go their separate ways, and as you know, the children are supposed to have a good relationship with both of them, and meaningful relationship changes depending on how old the child is, what the child's needs are, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, there's a common kind of some common practices in our culture around us that have begun to seep into Muslim kind of couples and families. So one of them is denying access to the other parent. So the child will, the one parent will say, they want to hurt maybe, or want to punish the other person, so they'll they might deny access to the children. The other and this happens, unfortunately, we've heard people using so many different types of excuses, like they're going to radicalize the children, or they're giving them, they're going to make them extreme or something like this, unfortunately. And
so are these things decided by the courts that the whole the father has it for so many days, the mother has the child for so many days, aren't they decided by the courts?
Well, the courts actually under normal circumstances, the courts provide equal access or rule that they give judgments that there should be equal access to for the mother and father. However, there's a lot of systemic problems involved in this. For example, the courts don't tend to enforce if one parent is breaking the rules or going against a judgment, because obviously it's not ideal to go and arrest a parent. That's going to cause a lot of trauma to the child, for example. So if somebody's not complying with the judgment by a court, there's very little that will actually happen, and the other parent basically just becomes it's become harder and harder for that parent to meet their child, or if they do, they have to go through a long and expensive process of kind of suing the other parent. That's why what we're talking about here, the area of this campaign is not in the legal domain. I mean, legally there's legal kind of things that someone could do, but we're talking about the more ethical, we're talking about the internal Islamic, the moral judgment of that person. So legally someone could go and they spend lots of money, and then they could, after a long battle, a long, expensive and very sometimes a vicious battle, they could end up winning access or equal access to their children. But what we're encouraging people to do is not put themselves through that in the first place, because that will make the relationship between those two people, and those three people now, because it's mother, father, and the child, it will strain the relationship. It will cause so many other unintended consequences. Not that people are free to we do have places where people can get know their legal rights and contact lawyers and stuff like that that can help them. But what we're trying to do here is stop people even getting to that level where they have to start suing each other, or going down that route, because the idea is Muslims should feel that they're Muslims, that they should act according to some kind of a superior moral or ethical kind of guideline or code that wouldn't need someone to use the hard arm of the law and suing and going to the courts and so forth to get their basic God-given rights.
And like you said, we've heard over the past when we've tried to resolve some kind of disputes, you hear that the child has been brainwashed, or by the mother brainwashed the child, your father's like this and he done this, and vice versa, the father puts within the child. So I think these are the things that you're talking about, and hashtag in the shoes, that put yourself in the child's shoes, and what mental scars that can cause in that child for the rest of his life. Is that what you're...
Yeah. I mean, one of these things is the worst thing that you can do to a child is to criticize their parent, in front of them, because you're criticizing 50% of them. Someone might think that they have the child's best interests at heart, but this is while you're still married. The worst thing people want, so some parents can do is, for example, argue in front of the children, or not show a united kind of good akhlaq towards one another, because that child is absorbing these messages about themselves, that okay, if my mom is an evil person, then I must be evil as well inside me, or my father is an evil person, I must have some evil inside me as well, and it just hurts the child emotionally. It leads to adverse childhood experiences, which later on have lots of negative consequences. And it teaches them also how to treat the men or women in their lives as well, how to treat their future spouse, how to treat their children as well. So it causes a very toxic kind of relationship, so even and that's why we ask people to take their disputes to recognizable bodies that have some kind of accountability, have some kind of best practice, where they have their long-term interests at heart. Not people who kind of profit from trying to just beat the other person, and then they'll just wash their hands of you once they get paid, and they'll go on to the next client. No, we want people who have the community's long-term interests at heart, who the imams of the communities, who have raised the children, who have know the children, know the families, who are able to come up with some kind of amicable solution where everyone's not happy, but at least the main people's rights are taken care of.
And Dr. You're right, because we witness many a times when we teach children here in the madrasa or whatever over the years, where when there has been a domestic issue, that I remember many years ago, one particular child, he was top of the class, and mashallah, in school and in madrasa, and all of a sudden his performance just dipped. And when I inquired, and he would come in crying, and it wasn't like him, and we were surprised. And we always think that we've done something wrong, and Ustad would think, have I said something to him, have I upset him in any kind of way? And so we try to figure out what's wrong. And then when I did ring the mother up, and the mother mentioned that a disputes, and the child's witnessed everything. Do you understand? And the thing is, you just, that taught me a lesson. Wow, how it affects a child. And even in school, it was the same thing. And how the child just went downhill, for those few months, and we had to build his confidence back up. Because whatever the dispute was in their house, we couldn't get involved in it. And but we had to make sure the child's welfare whilst he was in madrasa was always the best. So we did inform that he just keep an eye, even if he can't perform to his best levels, just let him get past. And the thing is, you just realize how it affects a child. And we always say that a child needs both fatherly love and the motherly love, because both father and mother, they have qualities that that child needs to possess, and he only learns those qualities by seeing his parents and by being in their company. And when he's deprived of that, again, you will see a child, he'll be more reserved. He won't have the confidence. Again, these are little things. We might think, mashallah, he knows this so well, but it's those confidence factors, these factors, that especially for his future, when he goes into college, university, for a job interview, he might lack. And that's all the effects of the breakdown of a relationship.
Yeah, it's not even just the parents, but the whole extended family as well. That we used to say that it takes a village to raise a child. So the child learns and gets the tarbiyah and the nurturing from so many different types of people. But one of the unfortunate features of the modern age is atomization of the family. So everyone is just split up and kind of separated and put into silos, where the kind of the features and functions of the family historically, that would be kind of mediated and done by the family, they're just done by now private corporate entities or public bodies, for your education, for your cultural production, for your even your medicine, for your financial issues, for resolving disputes, all these types of things. Now they're done. They used to be done by the extended family, the clan, the tribe, people who had a vested interest in the success of one another. But now they're kind of exported and outsourced to these the kind of public bodies, and as a result, what is considered the family or the home has shrunk from hundreds of people down to 2 or 3 people, and this has had a huge impact. And when that kind of breaks down, then it's so many problems. We see, for example, children are more likely to end up in jail later on in life. They're more likely to suffer from alcohol and drug abuse. They're more likely to end up if their girl's involved in teenage pregnancy, more likely to suffer a whole host of social ills if they come from this type of background. And obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created this bond, and only He is the one who has the right to sever this bond. So sometimes, obviously, people are orphans. People, may one of their parents might die. So because of Allah's decree, they're in this situation. And likewise, because of Allah's decree, if there are some shari'i reasons where the child may be deprived from one parent because maybe there's a danger or something like that, these are very, very rare, and only, that's the point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is part of his decree, that only this now reaches a criteria from which this can happen, not us individually who are involved in disputes and just following cultural norms and practices around us, just imitating other kind of cultures and value systems. It's not in our hands to make these kinds of determinations. That's what we're trying to get people to do. So if you do feel that you're in a situation where you're in a marital dispute, for example, then take your case to a recognizable body, that has your long-term interests at heart, and can say, okay, this is Allah's guidance on the matter, ABC.
No, so it's very the points that you just made, especially the families against, well, the unit of the family is considered. Masha, Islam was a whole society was a family, and it would take care of whole society. But as it's been broken down because of the society we live in today, it's like you can't even advise your own nephew, or you can't tell anybody else. They'll say, "Who are you to tell me?" And it's a massive difference. There's just 20 years gap. I remember me and Baba always talk about this. When we were young, uncle, and no, it's not related to you, but you had that respect. Uncle or Babaji will see me, and do you understand? And when they would advise you, you just stay quiet, because you knew you were doing wrong, but you knew the elder's gonna give you good advice, whether you listen to it or not, obey it or not. But he was there for your benefit. And now today, when you say to somebody, they'll say, "Who are you to tell me?" And it's an unfortunate situation.
I mean, that's partly because Muslims have absorbed a foreign philosophy and ideology, right, called neoliberalism. So neoliberalism has completely reshaped how we think about human beings and society, what society means. Neoliberalism, it in the last 40 years or so, it's become more and more common since Thatcher's time and Ronald Reagan, kind of with the brakes kind of taken off, and that fundamentally breaks down the interactions between human beings as mediated fundamentally as competitors for scarce resources. So whereas historically human beings were seen as ultra-social, kind of collectivist, social creatures, now they're seen as individuals who are competing with each other on a basic level. And this is one of the reasons why loneliness, there's an epidemic of loneliness. The UK, for example, is a Western leader in loneliness statistically. There's an epidemic of broken families. There's an epidemic of alcohol and drug abuse. All of these things can be, according to some people, if you're that way inclined, explained by this rise of neoliberalism, this rise of this new story of how we describe human beings and human interactions and human societies. Whereas Islamically, historically, and according to Islam's vision for society, we are one body, right? For two people to kind of compete or have animosity with each other is as absurd as one kind of one hand competing with another hand. It doesn't make sense according to Islam's vision for society. And Silatul Rahim, the joining of the ties of kinship, is a central theme in Islam's vision for society. So that's one of the things that we, Islam21c, our broader vision is to instill confidence and impact in Muslims, and that involves the Muslims, how we regard ourselves, what is our identity, what is our vision for society, what is our view, how do we articulate our place in modern society, for example. And so we, amongst our values, is to champion our heritage as Muslims Islamically, our thinking, our discourse, our aqidah, our sharia, all of these things, they form part of our identity. So when we see these types of social ills on the rise in society, and we have the answer we have the antidote for some of these kind of modern, many modern kind of social diseases that we see around us, we have a duty, you know, as Muslims to nurture the next generation with these important values.
And the hadith combine that the Prophet mentioned that the person who's a qatat, the person that who cuts ties, will not enter Jannah. And so cutting ties, like we might think is long term relationships are, you know, uncles, aunties. No, this is those ties that, you know, you're taking your child away from his mom, or you're putting something, you know, inside that child to hate his mother, or vice versa. The mother doing the same. At the end of the day, for that child, the father will always be the father, the mother will always be the mother. And like you said, relationships sometimes do break, and you know, if it's not to be, it's not to be. But the thing is, one thing for guaranteed, that relationship's there for life. And we should try to always, you know, still instill within the child, whatever happens, she's your mother, or he's your father. And don't forget that. Yes. And even if, say, you know, after the relationship, if the parents do get, you know, they go their own way, they get married again, or you know, there's other children that get involved, and at the end of the day, your mom's your mom, you know, your father's your father. And I think those are things that we still need to embed within the children. And I think also, like you were mentioning, I don't think COVID has helped the whole situation, because it's just torn, well, not torn, but families have been more apart during this whole period. And you know, we haven't met up for the Eid, we haven't met up. A lot of people are, you know, isolation. A lot of people are stuck in their own homes. So a lot of, you know, because of the threat of COVID, people have not been going around how they would meet people and greet people and hug and engage with their loved ones. And so I think, you know, it's just taken the boat even further away. So it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing with Silatul Rahim and having ties, joining your ties of kinship and showing your, you know, kindness and goodness to your family. Alhamdulillah, that a lot of that, as you know, Maulana Sahib, is contextual on your what are your cultural norms, what is your urf, you know. In some cultures, it's you know, if you don't speak to your mother every day, it's considered, you know, disrespectful or shameful. But in some cultures, some people might go, you know, weeks without, you know, meeting their family members, and they won't feel, you know, that they've done anything wrong. So there's a bit of flexibility there. But it seems now this pandemic and it's completely changing what the norm is now. So, but one thing we can all do is, you know, we always complain about these things here, how they're distracting us all the time, but you know, we can use them for calling someone up and just, you know, speaking to them, asking how they are, and going out of the way to connect with our family members, and you know, using technology, so FaceTime, Zoom, Streamlabs, all of these, StreamYard, sorry, all of these things that we're using, you know, we can use them now for to replace some of that interaction. It's not ideal, but you know, if you can't do the whole thing, at least try and get whatever you can out of whatever opportunity you have.
Doctor, I want to ask you just a little about Islam21c.
So, oh, Baba, are you here? Oh, assalamu alaikum.
MashaAllah. I just wanted to ask a bit more about Islam21c. As an organization, what is it and what does it stand for?
So Islam21c is short for Islam in the 21st century, and our vision is to see every Muslim confident and impacting the world. We do this via transformational digital content. So historically, it's been articles on the website, Islam21c.com. It opened up in 2006. Yeah, we try and get articles and contributions from Muslims mainstream Orthodox Muslims from all backgrounds, alhamdulillah, on a range of topics, from politics to news to tafsir to spirituality to aqidah and kind of fatwas on modern issues. And recently we've started doing more and more multimedia stuff. So we have the Unscripted podcast. You can find that anywhere on wherever you get your podcasts. We have videos, we have infographics going out on a weekly basis, alhamdulillah. So we because our vision is to kind of identify impact opportunities for Muslims and developing their confidence and impact, we found we wanted to start doing more and more campaigns. So part of our kind of principles is to have a unifying mindset, to try and bring Muslims together from various different backgrounds. So this was one of the examples where it's such an uncontroversial, very simple kind of message. Put yourself in children's shoes, to develop empathy with children going through these issues. No one in their right mind would disagree with that. So alhamdulillah, it's a good opportunity for Muslim organizations, khutaba, khatibs and imams and so forth, and organizations masjids to get together and do this campaigns like this that have enjoy such a broad consensus, alhamdulillah. So we're just getting
I think,
started.
Dr. Sab, this pandemic, even though we have been restricted to going to the masjid and especially during the lockdown periods, it's given us a time to reflect and ponder that, like you said, you've been talking about building relationships, and a big part of our deen is about social conduct. When we talk about the 5 aspects of deen, aqaid, ibadat, masharat, muamalat. So unfortunately, masharat, the social aspect, sometimes we ignore or we think it's not part of our deen. But where social, your character, how you behave, how you conduct yourself with people, how you approach your neighbors, Muslims, non-Muslims, your work colleagues, whatever, is a big part of your deen. And in that is sila rahmi, that relationship, those ties that you keep. And I think during this period, whilst we've been away from our loved ones, it's taught us that how important they are. Our lives empty without our loved ones.
Yeah,
Look, when you do ibadat and worship, you go to the masjid, and if you count your 5 namaz, you probably spend an hour in the day in the masjid, 1.5 hours in total. And the rest 22 hours of your life, 8 hours you sleep, the rest are with your colleagues, your workmates, or it'll be your time after work with that you used to have that time with your cousins, your relatives, your friends. And that's an important part of your life. And it's the social aspect where you socialize with people. And Islam allows you to do that, to keep those relationships, to keep those bonds. And because whilst we have been deprived of this for the last few months, I think it's taught me that how valuable every person is, and how hopefully inshallah after we've come out of all this, the love for one another does increase, and value for each person does increase. And like we're seeing, like here in Bradford, there's lately been a lot of deaths and people that made impact on your life or taught you something, and you've lost them. So you realize, wait a minute, life, what is it? How long are we going to be here in this world? And the time is just flying past. What's the point of me cutting up that relationship over what? What? Sometimes we got to learn to hack that relationship, to get on with one another. And so no, I think it's a good time to reflect and to ponder, and to think that how valuable these relationships are.
Absolutely. I mean, one hadith that really kind of is eye-opening is when the Prophet ﷺ said, there's 3 types of accountability on Yawm al-Qiyamah. We might think that if I go to the masjid, if I do my salah and dhikr and read Quran and give sadaqah, that I'm a good Muslim, But the Prophet ﷺ said there's 3 types of accounting on Yawm al-Qiyamah. One of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never forgive if somebody dies upon shirk, for example. The second one, he mentioned that Allah will easily forgive. He doesn't care about forgiving. He would love to forgive people. And those are the sins that occur between the human being and Allah. Like maybe we prayed late sometime, or we missed a fast or whatever. These types of things. If we sincerely ask Allah's forgiveness, Allah will easily forgive these things. But we always forget. Nobody really kind of
Hukukul ibad.
the third type of accountability, and that is the dhulm that the creatures do amongst themselves. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Allah will not leave any page unturned from that type of accountability. So even no matter how much salah we have, no matter how much sadaqah we've given, no matter how much dua and dhikr and Quran that we read, if you die having taken someone else's rights, you harmed your neighbor, you harmed your family member, Allah will not forgive that. We need to remember this. We have this good Muslim trap, that Allah will never forgive that until that person gets justice on the Day of Judgment. So this is what we want to save people from, ourselves as well, that we don't want to die having taken someone else's right. Number one, it will be a darkness. Al-dhulm dhulumat, dhulm is injustice, and wronging someone is darknesses. It will be a darkness on the Day of Judgment, darkness for someone's grave. Allah protect us. And number two, it tortures your own soul. Or find the people who have wronged others, they're the first to be tortured themselves. Their hearts will be tortured. They won't find ease in salah. They won't find sukoon. They won't find tranquility, because that harm of someone else, that dhulm against someone else, it eats away at someone. So no matter how much salah and dua and all these good deeds that we do, we have to be very careful that socially, what are we doing to other people? Am I harming my neighbors? Am I harming my family members? Am I harming my children, my parents? Am I fulfilling their rights? Extremely, extremely important, and we don't think about that enough, I think.
On that note, the hadith that when Nabi Sallallahu asked the Sahabas who's the muflis, the bankrupt one, and so the Sahabas reply, Allah and His Rasul know better. So Nabi Sallallahu informed the Sahabas that on the Day of Qiyamah, a person will come with a mountain full of good deeds, and he's fulfilled his huququllah, the rights with Allah Ta'ala. He prayed his namaz, he went for Hajj, he kept his fast. But what will happen is he cheated people, he lied to people, he backbited. So the people will come and complaining, and like he said, they'll be asking for justice. And so Allah will say to them, take away his good deeds. And slowly the mountain will start to disappear until there are no good deeds left. But there'll be still people coming complaining to Allah, well, he did this to me, and he was unjust to me. So Allah will say, well, he's got no deeds left, good deeds. Now put your bad deeds onto his shoulder. And so the thing is, he'll now have a mountain full of bad deeds and thrown into Jahannam because of this. So the thing is, like you said, it's something that we take lightly, especially the rights of others. And whenever, even when a khutbah for nikah performed, the whole purpose of the taqwa and the emphasis of fearing Allah is that everything we got to fear Allah, especially in the rights of others. And when we're accountable, and when people in the Day of Qiyamah will come, like you said, between myself and Allah, Allah can forgive me. But when it comes to people, if the person says, no, I don't want to forgive him, where are you going to go? So it's, we shouldn't take these things lightly. One, that's the big effect. It'll happen to us in the hereafter. We have to give account in front of Allah, and there's no hiding away during that period. And secondly, it's in the worldly. Whenever we cheat somebody, that will come back somewhere, somehow in our lifetime. Whatever goes around comes around, and we should think and ponder what our actions, the effect that it has on the next person, and what damage it can do. I always say, look, harm yourself, but don't harm others. If you've got to put yourself in a bit of a hardship, do it, but just don't harm others. And if you can't do any good to anybody, just don't harm anybody. And during these difficult times, if you can't help anybody, but just don't Sometimes we park up in the middle of the road, blocking the whole street, and we don't think anything of it. But what taklif is giving to the next person in the car, what badduas, what curses he's giving you. Do you understand? And we think nothing of it, and because of those curses, it might be having the angel might be saying Ameen upon them, and those effects in our life. Yeah, afterwards we think, oh, why did that happen in my life? It could have been somebody's curse that when you block the whole road, but you didn't even know. Do you understand? So we
could be
take
blocking and then they could be praying in the masjid.
yeah,
thinking that they're getting rewards, but that person whose driveway then maybe they blocked, or maybe they parked in a disabled bay, and the person who's genuinely disabled, he needs that space. They're getting their badwas.
So that's why, especially a child when he come into the world, he's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And especially, the hardships that a mother go through, those before pregnancy and during pregnancy, and then how happy and elated the couple are that alhamdulillah Allah blessed themselves with the child. They spread the message, they tell everybody, and how unfortunate, yes, like you said, relationships do break down, but we shouldn't take it to the extreme that we embed inside that child that hatred for the mother, or vice versa for the father. Because at the end of the day, that's that child's mom, that's that child's father. And and I think what you should still instill, whatever happens in our relationship, that's your mom, that's your dad. Always have love for them. And I think
very dangerous as well. This could actually, this type of these types of one of the tricks of shaitan is to lure you in with these types of sins, and then eventually someone might actually even end up making kufr or doing an act of shirk in this regard. For example, someone might say, or you don't want to live with your mom, do you? She makes you read the Quran and do all of these things, and when and go to madrasa, and these we've heard these stories. Sisters been deprived of their children because the husband might say, oh, if you come and live with me, I'll let you do whatever you want, and you won't have to do Quran and these types of things, and she forces you to pray. Or the sister might say something, for example, this guy's an extremist, and invoke all those bogus kind of counter-extremism discourses against the just because they have a desire to exact vengeance, or to, you think they have that they should be the ones raising the kids only. They have this scarcity mentality, that no, I must be the one that the kids get love from. But we want people to have an abundance mentality, where they understand that the more love, the more tarbiyah that the child gets, the better for them. But these are the types of areas where a lot of those ayat about tahakum bighayri ma anzalallah, judging by other than what Allah revealed, many people bring them up in where they don't belong, like voting or these types of things. But these are the examples of the place where that right of Allah is actually in danger of being breached. When you feel that this is what Allah's deen says, these are the guidance that we're supposed to follow, but I'm going to willingly choose something else. I'm going to disparage that, I'm going to say bad things about that, and I'm going to follow another culture, another tradition, or another way of looking at things. So that's a very extreme, very dangerous mistake for people to fall into, and it's very easy to fall into that if we're not careful. That's one of the problems of these kind of emotionally charged kind of types of disputes.
Doctor, so in their shoes campaign, which we're talking about today, how can we find out more about it?
So you can head over to intheirshoes.co.uk, or search for it on anywhere social media, intheirshoes.co.uk. On the 11th of December, if there's any khatibs or imams or Jummah coordinators watching, on the 11th September is the National Khutbah / Bayan Day. So masjids all over the country, we've got almost I think between 100 and 200 khatibs who signed up for this. We're trying to get as many as possible. We've got a khutbah bayan preparation pack for people to receive and kind of make their khutbah based on that. Where we've got leaflets that are being printed and sent to the different khatibs to just place in their mosques and Islamic centers and stuff like that. So hopefully, on the 11th of December, wherever you go for Jum'ah, you'll find a khutbah, being delivered on that. You'll find some leaflets and literature there. You can check out the website, and just get the word out, inshallah. If you are a khatib, go to inthershoes.co.uk and click join campaign, and you'll be able to put your email address and your address in to get those materials sent to you. We have a khatib's webinar as well on the 6th of December, so the Sunday before that Jummah, where the khatibs will have another meeting. We had a meeting a few weeks ago as well, and now it's the final meeting before the National Khutbah Day. Sheikh Mufti Amjad Muhammad will be there, Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad will be there, many other scholars from around the country were there, alhamdulillah, and just kind of sharing ideas and experience and giving advice to khatibs and imams to give those speeches on Friday the 11th, inshallah. So 11th of December is the Khutbah Day, National Khutbah Bayan Day, and 6th of December is the khatib's kind of meeting. You can go on inthershoes.co.uk, and you'll see join campaign, that button. If you press that, put your details in there, you'll get all the information, inshallah.
MashaAllah, thank you so much for that information, and I'm sure it'll benefit many people listening to that. I'm looking forward to listening to the khutbah that I'm sure Maulana Sahib is going to be involved in. We're around the 45 minutes mark, and we're coming about 20 past. So I think that's all for today. So inshallah, Maulana Sahib, is there any closing statements from you?
No, alhamdulillah, we're happy from Muslim to get involved in this campaign. And like we said, it's very important. We've got to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all our issues. And we should value each and every single human being, and every human being, our environment, our animals, they all have rights upon us, whatever we own and whatever we possess, or whatever is in our control. So what we've got to do, we've got to respect those rights, and we've got to value those rights and those people and those individuals. And I just hope, especially like you said, we're going through difficult times, that Allah Ta'ala make it easy for all of us, and the better we're together, the more successful we're going to be. The more split we are, the difficult the journey becomes. So may Allah make it easy for the ummah. May Allah make it easy for all of us. Jazakallah, Dr. Saf, for coming and raising this awareness.
Jazakallah khair, Imam Sahib. It's my pleasure.
I'd like to also say Jazakallah to Dr. Saf for coming and enlightening us some of these topics. It's not a topic that we really shine towards or talk too much about, and like just thinking for a second about what the children are going through really does change the perspective. Just some really quick housekeeping. At the bottom is the detail for Masjid Umar. So there's the bank code, sort code, and account details, the GoFundMe page. And if you want to donate via cash, then contact Zulf Darbai. We are still building the masjid. That project is still going on. We haven't stopped because of COVID. So please donate generously towards that. And next week, we are talking about martial arts. So my professor, the person I learned from, Mabzi Alam, is going to be on here, and we're going to talk about why he got involved and the benefits of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that topic is which I've been studying it for a long time, and it's a topic that I'm excited about.
But Baba, as long as you keep your distance and you don't practice on us.
Maulana Sahib, lockdown is lifted by then. I'm coming to see you. so inshallah, that's next week.
So you're going to get some tips next week.
Inshallah, Maulana Sahib. Inshallah. I wouldn't do it in front of my teacher, though. My teacher's going to be here, so inshallah, he'll give you tips. Dr. Sahib?
I think Maulana Sahib knows Bradfordian Jiu-Jitsu, so you better be careful. The other BJJ.
That's a good point. I'll see if I can find a defense between now and then of them.
Yeah.
Unlikely, though. SubhanAllah. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Islam21c.com and inthershoes.com, is it?
.co.uk.
.co.uk, inthershoes.co.uk. Go visit them if you want more information. Jazakallah for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.